In spot number 10 is the drama between Caitlyn Jenner and Ellen DeGeneres. It was back in 2015 when Caitlyn went on Ellen's show for an interview, and it ended with an ongoing feud between them. During the interview, Ellen asked her opinion on same-sex marriage, and Caitlyn said that there was a time in her life that she did not support it, but now she does. Ellen fired back immediately though, and made it seem like Caitlyn was saying that she does not support the LGBTQ+ community. The tension between them seemed to go past the show because Ellen talked about it on the Howard Stern show. She told Howard that Caitlyn was unfairly passing judgment about gay people and same-sex marriage. Caitlyn later came out with her side of the story and said she was not happy that Ellen painted her in that light. She claimed that she talked to Ellen on the phone prior to going on the show in the first place, and that they already discussed her changing opinion on same-sex marriage. So when Ellen flipped the switch on her during the live interview, Caitlyn was really upset. Cruising into number 9 is the Wendy Williams lip drama. She caused a big stir online after she talked about the Golden Globes on her talk show. It was because she started making comments about the awards show and began talking about the Oscar-nominated actor Joaquin Phoenix. But while talking about him, she mocked the scar that he has above his lip. She said that when he shaves his mustache, he has a hairline fracture, and then she started demonstrating with her hand how his lip scar looks like a cleft lip. People were furious and said she was insensitive not only to the actor, but also those who have cleft lips. Even Cher was furious and had a lot to say about it on Twitter. One of her tweets said an apology does not make up for what she did, and the other one said that she should be fired for making fun of something that is very painful for some people. Wendy did issue an apology following all the backlash, in case you're wondering, but is that enough? I don't know. She still has her job, so I guess so. In spot number 8, we have the time when Paris Hilton called out David Letterman. I did an entire list of celebrities who tried to warn us about David Letterman, so there is a handful of scandals that I could have used, but the one with Paris is what sparked the majority of them to be revealed in the first place. In 2020, Paris did a vulnerable documentary called This Is Paris, where she opened up about different times that she was belittled during interviews by other people in the industry, David being one of them. One video clip surfaced online showing him bugging her about her time in jail, which happened years before. He kept making very insensitive jokes about it, and even after she asked him to stop, he wouldn't. Paris revealed that he was purposely trying to humiliate her because he agreed not to bring up the jail thing before she even went on the show in the first place. After the clip went viral, a handful of other clips with different female celebrities surfaced, showing him belittling them and also being sexually inappropriate towards them. Taking over number 7 is Steve Harvey's note. He was making headlines in 2017 when a memo he sent off to his staff members was leaked online, showing him in a different light. People are used to seeing his very kind and goofy side, but apparently he is more entitled when he is off camera. The memo was sent from Harvey to his staff and basically told them all not to approach him. It said, "Do not come to my dressing room unless invited. Do not approach me while I'm in the makeup chair unless I ask to speak with you directly. Do not take offense to the new way of doing business." Turns out he was revamping things for season 5 of his show, and with a new crew, he wanted new rules. After the memo went viral, he decided to bail on the rap party for his own show. Probably because the staff all were terrified to even look at him. What do you guys think? Does he have a right to say that in a staff memo? Like, do you think it was too much? Do you think it's valid? Let me know. At number 6, we have James Corden facing backlash for allegedly being racist. This scandal caused a huge debate because some people felt he should be cancelled while others saw no issue with what he was doing. I will let you be your own judge. If you haven't seen his show, he does a segment called Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts. He fills the table with disgusting foods like cow tongue, different bugs, 1,000-year-old eggs, sardine smoothies, things like that. If his celebrity guest does not want to answer the question, they have to eat whatever is in front of them. He's been doing it for years, but this year he started taking heat after people said some of the foods that he refers to as disgusting are very common in Asian cultures. People said that the segment is culturally offensive and insensitive because many Asian Americans are consistently bullied and mocked for their native foods. James was quick to apologize though and be very understanding, saying that he will not do the segment and he will make appropriate changes to his show. We've made it halfway and we have Megyn Kelly vs. Jane Fonda. In September 2017, what started out as a normal interview led to some ongoing tension between these two ladies. They were having a normal interview which seemed to be going well until Megyn started asking Jane about aging and plastic surgery. It seemed to strike a nerve with her because she became irritated immediately and did not want to talk about it. She fired back at her saying, "We really want to talk about that now?" Then she changed the subject and began talking about her movie, Our Souls at Night. The interview just wasn't the same after that. You could feel like some awkward tension between them. Jane later joked about it months later on the Today Show, and Megyn replied by saying the actress is fixated on the exchange and said it was part of Jane's poor me routine. Things just seemed to get even worse from there. Just went on a spiral and a rant, and it's just not good. Rolling into spot number 4, we have Sharon Osbourne gets fired. Well, she was forced to step away, so you could say she kind of quit. Things turned sour quick when she went on the show and defended Piers Morgan, who gave his opinion about Meghan Markle's big interview regarding the royal family. His opinion was that he didn't believe Meghan's very serious claims. Sharon defended him, saying that he has a right to speak about his views and opinion, but that just caused issues for her because it came off like she was kind of agreeing with him. She tried to defend herself, but it ended up turning into a very heated argument between her and one of her other show hosts. The show had to cut to commercial and bleep out a bunch of F-bombs because the fight got so intense. The show was on a hiatus before it was announced that they would be moving forward without her. The show's statement said that her behavior towards her co-hosts did not align with their values for a respectful workplace. With that being said, at number 3 is Piers Morgan gets fired. You already heard the gist of what happened, but there was a lot of drama that led to him quitting the show, but media outlets say he was forced to step away. I feel like that's a nice way of saying, you're fired, I'm gonna give you opportunity to quit, if not, you're fired. He has been adored on the talk show Good Morning Britain, but then ITV announced they were getting a lot of complaints about Piers and they had to investigate them. Turns out the show received 41,000 complaints after Piers said he did not believe a word that Meghan Markle said in her Oprah Winfrey interview about the royal family. If you missed that very shocking interview, Meghan revealed how her mental health was negatively affected by the royal family and brought up certain incidents which were extremely racist and insensitive. Piers was open about the fact that he personally did not believe her claims. He ended up walking away from the show, which seemed to be a mutual agreement with the network either way, because they could not defend or protect his comments. Moving on to number 2, we have Jimmy Kimmel's insensitive comment. During one of his episodes in 2013, he offended the Chinese community around the world after making an insensitive joke. During one of his segments, a child suggested that harming everyone in China as a solution to dealing with America's growing debt. Jimmy responded to it by saying, "That's an interesting idea." The statement enraged a lot of people, even if it was meant to be a joke or sarcasm, and people online were demanding an apology from him. Eventually, Jimmy released a statement saying, "I thought it was obvious that I didn't agree with that statement, but apparently it wasn't. So I just want to say I am sorry, I apologize, it was certainly not my intent to upset anyone." I feel like he just chose to use sarcasm at a very bad time. Like, sarcasm either hits or it misses. Earning the number 1 spot is the feud between Dakota Johnson and Ellen DeGeneres. This has gone down as one of the most iconic and cringeworthy moments in talk show history. In 2019, a feud sparked between the two of them after Dakota went on her show to do an interview. At the time, they had already had this ongoing debate on whether or not Ellen had been invited to her birthday party. In 2018, Dakota admitted she did not invite Ellen because she didn't know if she would want to be invited, so in 2019, she did invite her. But Ellen did not show up to the party and also did not give any explanation why. So when Dakota went on her talk show, Ellen brought it up and accused her of not inviting her to her birthday again. The tension was immediately super uncomfortable as Dakota starts bringing other people into it. She said, I quote, Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer. She literally then points to the producer and calls him out during the interview. The producer revealed that she was in fact invited, and then it was super awkward because Ellen didn't even say why she didn't go, and then the audience just had to sit there and watch the whole thing unfold.
At number 10, Piers Morgan. I know that we as humans are bound to mess up sometimes, but there's no excuse for being overly critical and mean to another person, because clearly it can have its consequences, like how Piers Morgan lost his job due to the rude comments that he made on TV. Piers had a lot to say after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's interview with Oprah. Like many others, Piers was surprised at what was said during the interview, but he took some of the information shared in the interview and used it as hateful fuel that inevitably came back to bite him. During the interview, Meghan Markle opened up about her mental health and how it was affected being part of the royal family, saying that there was once a point after marrying into the family that she wanted to take her own life. Piers spoke about this on air of Good Morning Britain, and he said that he, quote, didn't believe a word that she said. After Piers made those and a handful of other harsh comments, he started to face massive backlash from all sides, as people said that his comments on Meghan's mental health were diminishing and disrespectful. The studio he worked for, as well as Piers himself, started receiving harsh comments, and so Piers actually left his position at Good Morning Britain. He was, in a way, fired from his job, but he decided to pull the plug himself, I guess, to make him seem like the bigger person. He has since refused to apologize, and since nobody wants to work with him after all this drama, it could be that his career is finished now. At number 9, Megyn Kelly. Journalist Megyn Kelly once had her own show called Megyn Kelly Today, but after facing a scandal, her show was cancelled by the network, effectively firing her from her job. This scandal all started when Megyn defended wearing blackface at Halloween on her morning show, where she said, quote, when I was a kid, that was okay just as long as you were dressing as a character. Even though she tried to apologize for her remarks, the network just didn't want to take any more risks with Megyn over fears that this would reflect badly on the company, so Megyn was fired and her show was cancelled. At number 8, Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons is certainly someone with little or no filter when it comes to his words and actions. He's an outlandish guy with a lot of energy, and so sometimes when he gets passionate or heated, then he can go off the rails a bit, and that can come back to bite him, as it resulted in him losing his job with Fox. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They seemed to really like him and enjoyed having him on their talk show, but after causing a stir at a meeting with Fox and making some crude comments towards some of the other staff members, Gene was banned for life and was fired from their show. Some of the things that Gene said to some women at the network got leaked, and it made the studio look bad, so they just had to let him go. In this day and age, making comments like that is sure to get you in some serious trouble, and for a celebrity, that can never be good because that can cost you your entire career, so Fox just had to save their own butts and had to get rid of the problem at hand. At number 7, Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody is a super successful actor, but after a scandal while hosting Saturday Night Live in 2003, his potential hosting career began and ended all in one night. When Adrien was hired to host SNL one evening, one of the tasks he was given that night was introducing the musical guest for the evening. Seems like a pretty simple enough task, but he still managed to mess it up. On the night that Adrien was hosting, the musical guest turned out to be Sean Paul, and Adrien saw this as the perfect opportunity to introduce Sean in an interesting way, to say the least. When it came down to announcing Sean's performance, Adrien came out dressed in fake dreadlocks and sporting a Jamaican accent. His bit was called out and was seen as offensive and uncalled for, as he went completely off script to do this bit, but no one found it funny in the slightest.
Man, Jamaica, man, you know, Rastafari, you got the whole family in the house, me got Sean Peter, you got Sean Paul, you got Sean Mary.
Because this was such an epic and controversial fail, the actor was subsequently fired and banned from coming back on the show. He faced a lot of backlash that hurt his image for a while, but clearly he's bounced back since then. At number 6, Jenny Slate. The first day at a new job is always a very stressful one. There's a lot of pressure to do well and start to fit into your new work environment, so usually employers forgive any kind of minor mistakes, but for comedian Jenny Slate, the mistake that she made on her first day was a bit of a doozy, and she ended up getting fired for it. Back in 2009, during her first performance as a cast member on the show, Jenny got the chance to perform one of the sketches that she wrote. She knew the bit like the back of her hand, or at least she thought she did, because when she went to go say one of her lines, she accidentally switched up one of the words and dropped an accidental F-bomb in its place. We all know that on network television, especially on talk shows like this, having adult language is a serious no-no, and when Jenny messed up, it just was not good for her at all. After that night, Jenny just struggled to fit the show's vibe, at least that's what she went on to say. The F-bomb, combined with her other behind-the-scenes stuff, caused her to get fired from one of the most famous shows on TV, and that definitely held her back in the comedy world for a little while, but clearly not forever. At number 5, Alec Baldwin. Back in 2013, Alec Baldwin became the host of a late-night talk show called Up Late with Alec Baldwin on MSNBC. But his career as a talk show host was very short-lived, as the show was promptly cancelled after just 5 episodes because Alex landed himself in a scandal that got him fired from the network. Alec had been exposed for getting into a heated brawl with paparazzi, where he went on a bit of a homophobic rant, which, as you can imagine, made Alec as well as the network look bad. Luckily for him, the only thing that really took a beating was his late-night career, since his acting career remained relatively steady after this scandal. He got lucky that he only got fired from one job and not all of them. At number 4, Leah Remini. Actress Leah Remini, known for her work on sitcoms like The King of Queens and Kevin Can Wait, was also a host on the talk show The Talk, but that career was pretty short-lived because she just didn't mesh well with her fellow co-hosts. In an interview with Howard Stern, Leah talked about how she was fired from the show because, quote, she refused to keep her mouth shut. Leah said that she was just doing what she thought was right for her on the show, but the producers thought differently, and this led to her losing her job. Her career still remained intact after being let go from the show though, so things certainly could have been worse for the actress. We just know that she might not be invited to be a talk show host again anytime soon. At number 3, Charles Rocket. Between 1980 and 1981, SNL seemed to be on its way out, despite having been one of the biggest shows on TV. This all came after there were changes in staff, and this caused some drama because much of the cast weren't happy with the new changes being put in place. Because of this seemingly controversial change, much of the original cast of the show left, leading the new producer to have to rehire a brand new cast. This was great for new up-and-coming comedians because it gave new people new opportunities, but it also made others lose everything they worked for. Comedian Charles Rocket was one cast member who had their career destroyed on the show after he dropped an F-bomb during a skit. The comedian was closing out the show when he spoke some adult language, and since this is a huge no-no, he got reprimanded for it, and it caused him as well as a handful of others to get fired from the show. So he not only got himself fired, but many other cast and crew members as well, greatly affecting a lot of careers. At number 2, Ellen. Now I know you guys are gonna head into the comments right now and say, well, Ellen didn't get fired. And I know that. But she did kind of fire herself when she announced that she would be ending her show. She's laying herself off because she's taking away her own job. Last year in 2020, we watched the comedian and talk show host fall rapidly from grace as allegation after allegation came out, painting her as a nightmare to work with, among other things. She faced so much backlash for months for things like the treatment of her staff, her comments about lockdown, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Because of the events of last year, she lost a lot of credibility and respect in the industry, and her show lost a lot of ratings and advertisers as well, leading to her making the decision to end her talk show after so many years. So yeah, no one officially fired her, but she kind of just fired herself. And finally, at number 1, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne faced a lot of backlash a few months ago after making comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Sharon and her former co-host Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's remarks about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up some of Piers's comments about Meghan's mental health, and this really frustrated a lot of people because many felt as though what was being said was going a little too far. As a result of the remarks that Sharon made, she was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts on the show. As a result of this, the network she worked for launched an internal investigation to look into the allegations against Sharon, and it all ended with Sharon being let go from the show. At number 10, Vivica A. Fox. You know, you don't always have to like everybody. It's okay not to be the biggest fan of someone, but for the sake of appearances, it might be a good idea to at least pretend like this person doesn't bother you. This could be extra good advice for celebrities as well. Because Hollywood is essentially one big show, having beefs with people isn't always the best thing for you, and watching two people who hate each other try to have a conversation can be painful as well. Take for example the bad blood between Vivica A. Fox and Jimmy Kimmel. To start, these two celebrities weren't the biggest fans of each other to begin with, but when the actress was on Jimmy Kimmel Live back in 2005, their bad blood started to really boil, and it led to the actress being banned from the show. The actress was on the show to promote her movie Missing, but things didn't go as smoothly as planned because as Jimmy made a joke about one of Vivica's friends, it made her upset and she ended up storming off the set, leaving Jimmy to finish the segment without his guest. Later on, he said that Vivica was one guest that he would never have back on the show. At number 9, Bill Hicks. Many times in Hollywood, we see people get in trouble for being too controversial. It's basically the backbone of cancel culture. Well, here's an example of someone being banned from a talk show for being so controversial that their segment was scrapped entirely. Comedian Bill Hicks made a number of appearances on Letterman between 1984 and 1993, but his 12th appearance on the show was scrapped after it was deemed too controversial to be aired. After that, a ban was issued. According to the comedian, Letterman as well as the audience didn't seem to have many issues with his set, but it was the show's executives who had the whole thing scrapped. This statement has been debated by some because a lot of people still took offense to some of the topics the comedian was discussing. Unfortunately, the comedian never got a chance to redeem himself on the show as he passed away a short time later. At number 8, Madonna. It seems as though there's a good chunk of people who really don't like Madonna. There could be 1.5 million reasons why she and others do not always get along, but the bottom line here is that not everyone wants to be friends with the singer, especially Piers Morgan. There seemed to be some kind of one-sided beef with the singer that frankly I don't think she cares about too much, but Piers on the other hand had a lot to say about her. Morgan said that Madonna was banned from his program because she is, quote, boring and annoying. He also went on to say, quote, Madonna and I, we've never really seen eye to eye. There was a bread roll throwing incident in London in the mid-90s. There was an incident at a hotel in the south of France at the Cannes Film Festival involving a photographer and a bodyguard. There's been an incident involving a pub owned by her recently departed husband Guy Ritchie, where my brother was the manager, end quote. If you thought he was done with his commentary on the singer, you thought wrong. Piers also said that Madonna was too vegan for TV, whatever that means. Either way, Madonna never responded to all of Piers' comments about her, so again, I think she remained pretty unfazed by the ban that he had put in place, but clearly the TV host had some pent-up aggression there. At number 7, Joan Rivers. Apparently, late-night TV host Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers had so much beef that he not only banned the comedian from his show, but he also refused to speak to her for the rest of his life. When Carson became the host of The Tonight Show in 1962, Joan was starting to rise to fame for her comedy. She and Carson became a pretty dynamic duo as she appeared in his late night show almost 100 times. She was hired as a writer and even became a guest host when Carson was away, but in the mid-80s that's when things started to turn bad as Joan was upset that NBC never offered her a long-term contract. When talks of Carson's retirement began, there was a list of potential candidates of who would replace him, and to her astonishment, Joan wasn't on that list. The silver lining there was that Fox later contacted her about having her own late night show, and she jumped at the opportunity. This made Johnny really mad because he felt like he was almost being blindsided by the whole thing. This caused them to have a pretty big falling out, which led to Joan being banned from her former friend's show. When speaking out about the drama between them, Joan went on to say, quote, I think he really felt because I was a woman that I was his, that I wouldn't leave him. I know this sounds very warped, but I don't understand otherwise what was going on. For years I thought that maybe he liked me better than the others, but I think that it was a question of I found you and you're my property. He didn't like that as a woman I went up against him, end quote. At number 6, Kelsey Grammer. I feel like when a celebrity asks for something specific, it should be given to them. I'm not talking about anything material like demanding a cup of ice chips or something. I mean a specific request in reference to the way that they are treated. For actor Kelsey Grammer, he made a very specific request when doing an interview with Piers Morgan, and when that request wasn't honored, there was a falling out that led to the actor being banned from the show. When the actor made a guest appearance on Piers Morgan Tonight back in 2012, he requested that a picture of his ex-wife not be shown. He was willing to answer questions about her, but just didn't want to have a photo of her be aired. Well, Piers didn't honor that request, and when a photo of his ex-wife was shown, Kelsey stormed off set. The actor's publicist said that Piers had to take accountability for his actions because Kelsey was so mad about the situation, but instead, Piers barred the actor from his show. That doesn't really seem like the right thing to do in that kind of situation, but okay. At number 5, Jackie Mason. I'm sure we are all aware of how sensitive TV networks are about what kinds of things get aired. Saying some kind of adult word can cause some serious consequences, but what about hand gestures? Well, it turns out that those are also against the rules, and someone had their whole career ended because of it. Comedian Jackie Mason had been working on the Ed Sullivan Show for a bit back in the day, and it made him pretty successful. He was given a contract for 6 appearances, which was set to earn him around $45,000, which is more like $350,000 in today's money, since this all happened back in the mid-60s. Either way, it was a very well-paying job for only having to do 6 appearances. Anyway, his entire contract was essentially ripped up after he got into some trouble for flipping the bird on stage. Jackie was playing off one of the stage managers who was making gestures with his fingers to indicate how much time he had left, but he went a little too far. As part of his little joke, he pointed his finger around the room saying, quote, here's a finger for you, and a finger for you, and a finger for you, end quote. This kind of behavior was not allowed, and so he was booted off the show and subsequently banned. At number 4, Artie Lang. When you're a guest on someone's show, the expectation for celebrities is that they stay alert, engaging, and on their best behavior. For comedian Artie Lang, it seems as though he didn't follow through with that unwritten rule and he got banned because of it. Lang had been struggling with substance abuse And though he had appeared on Conan O'Brien's show a number of times, he ended up getting banned because the producer thought that he was under the influence of some kind of substance on his last appearance, so they told him that he wouldn't be welcome back on the show until he was clean and could prove it. The studio didn't want to risk anything if Artie kept coming back while he was still using, and so they did it for his own good as well as to save their own image as well. At number 3, Howie Mandel. If you watched America's Got Talent, then you know that Howie Mandel and Piers Morgan were judges together. Through the time that they worked together, Howie was known to play pranks on Piers, like using fart machines on him and setting up vending machine blockades. Although Howie thought that this was all in good fun, Piers on the other hand wasn't impressed with his co-workers' antics, and even going so far as to call Howie the quote, most annoying man that he's ever met. End quote. Piers didn't like Howie so much that he ended up adding him to the list of celebrities who he had banned from his show. There was some bad blood there, but honestly, after learning about how many people Piers Morgan seemed to have beef with, this ban honestly doesn't even surprise me in the slightest. At number 2, Gilbert Gottfried. This ban has to be one of the most pointless bans I have ever heard of because it really wasn't necessary at all. Howard Stern banned Gilbert Gottfried from his show simply because the comedian went on another show. I know, I don't get it either. There wasn't even any bad blood between them. When Gottfried got cancelled after making insensitive tweets about the devastating tsunami that hit Japan in 2011, Howard even came to his defense online, so really no one knows what the motive behind this ban really was. I'm sure it can't really be because he went on another show because that is so absurd, but honestly, we may never know. And finally, at number 1, Gene Simmons. I think that we can all agree that Gene Simmons is somewhat outlandish. He's a guy with a lot of big energy and no filter, so when it comes to interviewing him live, you never know what he might say, but you can certainly hope that it won't be too offensive. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They liked the guy and they liked having him on their talk show, but after causing a stir during a meeting at Fox and making some crude comments towards some of the other staff members, Gene got banned for life, and it was a hot topic of its own. Some of the things that Gene said to some of the women at the network got leaked, and it's not something that you would want to have said to you, let's just put it that way. After all that went down, the singer was not welcome back on their programming, and honestly, I can't say I blame them.